You're listening to the relaxing, soothing, and stress-free sounds of Sacramento Smooth Jazz.
Welcome back. This is Michael Andrews, and I'm joined, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm joined with Joel Del Rosario, wonderful guitarist, smooth jazz all the way, but there's a lot of information that we'll be unpacking about him, and I'm thrilled that he's with us today. He's going to talk about what he's doing, what he's been doing, and where he's going, and you're going to be very impressed. Joel, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me.
I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm sure our listeners are just waiting with bated breath to just find out more about you because you have some great music. I love playing it. Our listeners love it. And so I want to get right into it. I know that you're from the Bay Area here in California, Northern California. I don't think a lot of people know a whole lot about you. So I recognize that, you have been doing this for several decades. And as a guitarist, songwriter, but a lot of people don't know that you are classically trained in the viola over there in San Francisco School of Arts. You want to talk a little bit about that, how that began before we transition into where you are right now?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much. So I grew up in a non-musical family. My dad liked to listen to a lot of classic soul records. So we'd listen to a lot of stylistics, the Spinners. Those are the kind of songs I grew up listening to. So, early in the morning, my dad would spin those records, the record player, early in the morning. And I just remembered, hearing that kind of music. So come elementary school, my dad got me into, the recorder, and I sang a little bit in school plays. But it wasn't until middle school where I got into the viola, and this was in San Francisco. I am born and raised in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I'm currently residing in San Francisco as well. In high school, I carried the viola with me. I got me to School of the Arts in San Francisco. I did classical music, the viola, and I did transition to the jazz band. I was really enamored by the jazz band, and I thought it was just really cool how it all sounded together and all these different pieces, That's how I transitioned to jazz. I got into guitar, and I'm sure that we'll talk about that later on as to why I got into the guitar. But in terms of jazz, I got into it in high school, and I really enjoyed it, and I never looked back. I really enjoyed it, and I'm blessed to be able to continue doing it today.
Well, a definite love of music, especially with the exposure from your father playing various types of music. And I find that many artists, when we start unpacking things, we find that a lot of it is because their parents or their family exposing them to various types of music as a child. And so, but you did amazingly well. I'm seeing here that you actually had won a Stan Getz scholarship to attend Stanford University Jazz Camp during high school.
Right.
So I'm sure that shaped you. What was that experience like?
That was a really awesome experience. At the time in high school, I didn't really realize how great Stan Getz was. And my apologies to Stan Getz and to the listeners that respect his music. As I got older, I realized that Stan was a really big figure in the whole bossa nova, straight ahead jazz music scene, primarily like bossa nova. So as I look back and I saw him performing, my family and I got a trip on the Hornblower yacht to see him play as I got my scholarship from him.
Nice.
It was an honor for him to be there, to get a scholarship with his name and actually see him perform. As I look back, I'm just really fortunate and blessed to be able to experience these different things, but that was definitely magical to see him.
Absolutely. And as a young man growing up, being exposed to just talent, and I'm talking about wonderful talent, I'm sure it done a wonderful thing with you and how it shaped the way you want to play, because over the last few decades of your career, a lot of people hear your music and they hear classical within the smooth jazz. They hear hip hop within the smooth jazz. They hear Southern gospel within the smooth jazz. And so you have this a unique ability to incorporate many different styles in the smooth jazz genre. And that's fabulous. That's just a wonderful gift. And I understand you write a lot of your own music as well.
Yeah, definitely. I did a lot of stuff on my own. I played the bass parts, the keyboard parts, and right do the drum parts on the song. So basically, yeah, I produced the whole thing, everything that you hear, unless I get other musicians. Like on my latest album, 5, I have Jeff Tabaloff on there on sax. But, one of the great things about being or having grown up listening to, soul music and a lot of these different genres to be part of an orchestra is that as I was sitting playing the viola in the midst of this orchestra or sometimes symphony, I find myself listening and breaking down these different components all around me. So I guess you would have to say, I mean, as I'm writing my songs, my childhood kind of developed my ear, since I have in an orchestra setting, like all these different parts, like a double bass, like a violin, or like in a symphony, I have horns behind me, and all these different things I was able to kind of break down. And in my music, as I write music today, I'm able to think that way, like different pieces put together, and I think that's pretty cool. And I always tell other artists that I work alongside with, I'd like to see myself kind of as an innovator, and I think that the whole genre in general should always evolve, and it's evolving because, I mean, there's so many different things that people are listening to, and I am proud to be able to incorporate the classical, the Spanish style, like the different, like classic soul or blues or gospel side of it in smooth jazz.
So if you just tuned in, I'm talking with guitarist Joel Del Rosario, and he's just, we're just having a conversation, and it's really amazing. Now, for those who don't know what a viola is, can you explain it briefly? What is that?
A viola would be like a deeper sounding, like a lower range kind of violin. The body's a little bit bigger. So to me, it has a more deeper tone, richer tone in comparison to like a violin, which is kind of like several octaves up. So it's a little bit, I'd say maybe it's kind of like a Luther Vandross kind of like, tone to me. It's nice and smooth, very like,
right,
warm, and just, that's what it is to me.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, recognize that Joel Del Rosario has been featured on many stations around the world. MSNBC also featured him, and also the Italian Smooth Jazz channel even had him as well. So he's internationally known. And one critic even said that Joel Del Rosario has George Benson-like fluidity. And I was like, wow, okay, so we understand that comparison. So that's really something to take hold of, because we'll be featuring some of your music here later on in the broadcast. So you do bring, as I was indicating before we started this, that you bring some funk to your music. I hear some funk in your music. I hear some classical in your music. You know what I mean? Your ability to incorporate all of that in the smooth jazz genre is phenomenal. And listening to a number of your albums, of what we call CDs now, I've listened to them and I'm like, wow, there's a range on here. And I'm really impressed by that. But I'm curious, as I see, and I hear this from a few listeners, they want to know, how does an artist, when they say, hey, we're featuring XYZ as this person joining up on this particular song on this CD, how does that come to be when you're writing a song and you're thinking about an addition and you say, I want this person to play? Do you just call them and say, hey, I want you to play on this? How does that work?
Well, it depends on when I write music, I think about the different players that I hear. Like there's different ranges, there's different kind of styles. There's different, it's like getting a singer on a song. There's songs that are made for female singers and male singers. And there's just some things that are made for people that have a rough kind of like tone or a smooth tone. So it all depends on what kind of music or what kind of vibe I'm trying to bring out. So this recent album called Night Shift, I was fortunate enough to have Jeff Tabaloff on it. Night Shift was a very smooth, kind of like nighttime, kind of chill kind of song on it. And Jeff Tabaloff, actually, let me go ahead and move back a little bit. Kevin Lewis of the Smooth Jazz Alley introduced me to Jeff Tabaloff. And Jeff Tabaloff has this really nice Richard Elliott tone on his sax playing, and full of really breathy, really emotional. He fit that song so perfect. And, whenever songwriters write songs, for me, like when I'm asked to write songs for other people, I look at who they are and their personality, what kind of songs they like. And I don't know if I'm straying away from it, but sometimes I look at that artist and who they are, and I create songs that fit them. Just kind of like a custom-made shoe or custom-made clothing. It just fits them correct. Just like a song I wrote for Tony Exum. My name is Tony. Tony and I love the 90s, and he's a very kind of like funky kind of guy. So I said, we need a song that's aggressive, kind of like, in your face, but at the same time, like shows how smooth he is. So if you listen to My Name is Tony, I wrote that song for him, and it just fits him so well.
Nice. Now we have greater understanding how that works. And that's really amazing how you have that great analogy as to it's like a custom made suit.
Right.
It's fit for this person.
Exactly.
Or that instrument that they play, or the way they play that specific instrument.
Mm-hmm. They're just personality,
So when you're writing for yourself, and of course you have different styles when it comes to different songs, all feel a little bit differently. What's an inspiration for you when you're writing? Let's look at your latest CD, 5, for example, and we're going to feature actually 5, the title track. What's your thought process when you're writing that one compared to other songs? Is it what you're feeling for that day, for that week, for that moment? Take us through that.
So 5 was written by Matt Godina. He's a good friend of mine from Southern California. He's worked with Brian Culbertson and actually toured with him. And he's worked with a lot of other musicians, just like Boyz II Men. When Matt sent me the music and I listened to it, it had a really gospel-y kind of like tune to it. That's what I heard. But at the same time, like I kind of heard, my wife and I were listening to it and she said, you know what, it sounds, you know what would sound good? Like a George Benson kind of like a lick, or kind of like that feel to it. So if you listen to 5, the first couple of lines sounds like really like Turn Your Love Around by George Benson.
Oh,
so
wow.
I mean, we incorporated that. Just listen to it. It sounds kind of like it has that same kind of like choppy, kind of like syncopated vibe to it, you know? When he sent that up to me, like I knew that I needed to have kind of like an upbeat kind of type playing to it, very syncopated, very choppy. But the first thing that I always do is we have to always come up with the hook, because that's the thing that's gonna attract people to the song. So we needed to come up with a very nice hook. And then after that, like as I look at the music and as I look at the songs and how I'm supposed to play guitar, then everything kind of flows to it, you know.
Nice. So we're going to be playing 5 here after we finish, and we're going to actually end it with 5 since we're talking about it. And I think it's only fitting. But before we go, I want to know what's next for you with respect to events, concerts. You know, people want to know more about you. Where can they find you? Not only, in fact, let's start with online. Where can they find you online?
You could find me on Apple, iTunes, Spotify. You know, I'm looking at getting back into, I used to have a website, JDR Jazz, but I took it down. But I'm really highly considering bringing it back up again so that people can find out more about me. Music-wise, I'm working on my 6th album right now. So working on that. And at the same time, actually, I have a couple of shows in terms of shows. One which I like to talk about, it's coming in June 25th down in Vallejo. I'll be joining Dean James and saxophonist Paul Atherton. Dean James is also a saxophonist. Incredible saxophone players, and also has a couple of #1 hits on the radio as we speak. But that's going to be a fantastic show. So if you're in Vallejo on the 25th of June this month, please join me and Dean and Paula.
That's going to be at the Empress Theater, I see.
Empress Theater. That's a nice Art Deco theater down in Vallejo. Very nice area.
Wow.
You know, it's classy.
So what I'll do now, you're on Instagram, I believe.
Yes.
How can people reach you on Instagram?
JDR_guitar. That's my name on Instagram. JDR_guitar. And that's where you can find stuff about me, what I'm doing, where I'm playing.
What about Facebook? You're on Facebook?
Joel Del Rosario, Joel Del Rosario, D as in David, ELROSARIO.
Awesome. I also have information that you are going to be in Stockton in the next couple of months.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. I think I saw that lineup, and when I saw you on there, I was really taken back. I'm like, wow. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening at the Stockton Jazz Festival.
SMA Entertainment has a fantastic outdoor event annually, and I'm thankful because COVID's kind of shut everything down for a while, but finally we're able to have another Stockton Jazz Festival. And you'll have, like, the last time I played was like around 5,000, 7,000 people out listening to some really good music. This year, we have several artists. We have myself, and joining me is going to be Tony Exum. We also have saxophonist Jeanette Harris, fantastic saxophone player, excellent saxophone player. We have one of the Braxton brothers that's going to be in there. We're going to have Tony Terry, R&B artist from the 90s, had that popular hit With You back in the days. Trumpeter Lynn Roundtree. There might be more. I just don't know. But as far as I know, that's what we have so far. You
are paired with a wonderful plate of talented people there. That's going to be amazing. So June 25th in Vallejo. They can go to your Instagram or Facebook to find out more about those events there. But I would say, folks, you want to get to the locations where he's going to be. He's going to be amazing. To see him play live, it's phenomenal. It's a party. It's definitely a party. and people are looking to get out and of course, while being safe, and that's definitely going to take place. So I am thrilled that we had a conversation. I know the listeners are thrilled as well to get to know a little bit more about you because we play your music here at Sacramento Smooth Jazz. And
thank you.
And we enjoy it. The listeners enjoy it as well. In fact, folks, what I'm going to do now as we end it, what do you want the people to know about you before we close?
I want them to know that every time you get to see me, it's a fantastic opportunity, and I enjoy playing. A lot of artists, I like to tell a lot of artists and people that I'm really easy to get along with, and I'm really fun to be around. Just know that I have some great music. Just know that I'm very thankful for you all to be at the shows, and it's always a party when we perform for you.
Nice. But as I'm sitting here looking at my notes, there's something else I forgot. And you also have a radio show.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's let the listeners know about that. Where can they find you?
Definitely. So I've been asked alongside professional musicians out there to host a radio segment at www.worldwidejazzradio.com. So on the radio show, you'll have people like, they'll have Gail Johnson, who's Norman Brown, guitarist Norman Brown's MD. You have a lot of independent artists like myself who hosts a segment, and my show comes in on Thursdays from 3 to 4 and Saturdays from 7 to 8 Pacific Standard Time. And on my radio show, I have been fortunate enough to interview a lot of artists, just like you're interviewing me. So I interviewed Paula Atherton. I also interview people, international artists like saxophonist Wakana, who's based out of Japan.
Yes, she's amazing.
Yeah,
yes.
Excellent. I can't believe, she's just amazing. It's just her production style, saxophone playing is really nice and soulful, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I'm through over the years with the connections and the people that I perform with, I'm able to have these artists on my radio show as well. And I hope to continue it.
Nice. Folks, that's worldwidejazzradio.com. Thursdays and Saturdays. For Thursdays from 3 to 4, Saturdays from 7 to 8 Pacific time, you'll be able to see or able to hear Joel Del Rosario not only play some music, but also have a conversation with other artists as well. I really appreciate you sharing today.
No, thank you so much for having me.
And what we're going to do, what we talked about, your latest CD, your latest project, 5, we're going to lead off with the title track, 5.
Awesome.
I want to thank Joel Del Rosario. Let's get into it right now. Here's Joel Del Rosario from his latest CD, 5, with the title track, 5, right here on Sacramento Smooth Jazz.
Thanks for listening to Sacramento Smooth Jazz. To continue listening to Smooth Jazz 24/7, follow Sac Smooth Jazz on social media and listen by going to sacsmoothjazz.fm.